So I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus after that. And we're making some progress.
Elon Musk just slammed woke culture. Elon Musk says wokeness is tearing people apart and killing humor.
It just seems to have been, in recent years, somewhat affected by the woke mind virus. So that just makes everything less funny. Yeah. Woke mind virus is a world without humor.
He asserts that wokeness lets people act cruel while pretending to be righteous, dividing society and making forgiveness a thing of the past.
At its heart, wokeness is divisive, exclusionary, and hateful. It basically gives mean people a shield to be mean and cruel, armored in false virtue.
In this video, let's watch how Elon Musk brutally slammed woke culture. Elon Musk sees the woke mind virus as a real threat to society.
It is a prevalent mind virus and arguably one of the biggest threats to modern civilization. Like, wokeness basically wants to make comedy illegal.
To him, it's more than just a trend. It's a mindset that rewards conformity over talent and silences free speech. He believes this way of thinking makes people afraid to question anything, worried they'll be canceled if they do. Musk warns that cancel culture goes beyond criticism. It aims to destroy reputations and shut down conversations completely. He fears that by silencing different opinions, society will lose its creativity, stop thinking critically, and risk losing what makes it truly innovative. In a very controversial interview with Don Lemon, Elon Musk openly talks about content moderation on X, formerly Twitter, and brushes off concerns about media criticism.
So, Don, you love censorship, is what you're saying?
No, I don't love censorship. I believe in moderation.
Moderation is a propaganda word for censorship. Look, if something's illegal, we're going to take it down. If it's not illegal, then we're putting our thumb on the scale and we're being censors.
You're putting your thumb on the scale for moderating hate speech. I mean, you don't put out child pornography. That's not...
It's illegal.
Some people would say that's considered censorship. I'm just saying.
I literally said, if something is legal, okay, we will obviously remove it.
He clarifies that he doesn't care what the media thinks, calling them unreliable. For Musk, X's job is to follow the law and be open, not to add more rules than necessary.
Okay.
We, I guess, have a disagreement because I do not believe in censorship that goes beyond the law, and you do.
So you don't consider that hate speech?
I guess you're not understanding what I'm saying.
We don't agree on this.
Yes, you want censorship and I don't.
No, I don't want censorship at
Yes,
all.
you do.
No, I want responsibility.
You desperately want censorship.
No, if I want a censorship...
You want censorship so bad you can taste it.
No, that's not true.
And I'm against censorship. I'm in favor of freedom of speech.
Yeah.
And freedom of speech only is relevant when people you don't like say things you don't like. Otherwise, it has no meaning.
He challenges claims that hate speech has increased since he took over, saying that views on hateful content have actually dropped. Musk emphasizes that only illegal content should be removed, believes in transparency over censorship, and warns that too much moderation can end up silencing free speech. Elon Musk doesn't hold back when discussing change and where it comes from.
If you're sitting around on your toilet waiting for society to change, you're exactly where you deserve to be. Change doesn't come from protest signs. It comes from having 12 children with 5 different women.
He points out that you will stay stuck if you're sitting around waiting for the world to change. In his view, real change doesn't come from protests or holding signs. It comes from living your life and building something, like raising a family. He boldly states that change happens when you have kids, emphasizing that action, not just talk, moves society forward. In another sad moment, which no father should have to face, Elon Musk opened up about his strained relationship with his eldest child, Xavier, which he says stems from deep disagreements over transgender issues. When he was still aligned with more liberal views, Elon consented to Xavier receiving gender-affirming care, including hormones and surgery. However, as time passed, he felt increasingly grief and loss. Feeling that he had been misled into agreeing to medical decisions he didn't fully understand at the time. He admits that back then, he had little knowledge of what transitioning involved.
This is before I had really any understanding of what was going on, and we had COVID going on, and so there was a lot of confusion.
As he gained more awareness of the process, Musk came to believe that the gender-affirming treatments his child underwent were irreversible and harmful. He expressed the painful feeling that the treatments led to sterilization and, in his words, the loss of his son. Musk refers to this as a part of a larger cultural issue, blaming wokeism for what he seems as harmful impacts on young people. He now views the process as having taken his son away from him, both emotionally and physically, a loss that he still deeply mourns.
It wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs. Anyway, and so I lost my son essentially. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
All right. So the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and there's lots of people in that situation now.
Right.
It's not pretty, and lots of demolished kids.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's a good reason to be the final straw. All right, so let's.
So I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus after that.
Not only this, but in several other interviews, Elon Musk has been vocal about his conflicts with wokeness. And he emphasizes that it's not just a personal issue for him. He strongly believes in the importance of free speech and open discussions, especially since he bought X. He acknowledges that his focus on these issues has made him more political.
Over the past year or so, since purchasing X, you've become more political. Is there a part of you that regrets that?
Have I?
In this battle to sort of counterweigh the woke that comes from
Yeah, I guess if you consider fighting the woke mind virus, which I consider to be a civilizational threat, to be political, then yes.
Still, he views this as necessary to fight against what he calls the woke mind virus. For Musk, this isn't about supporting one political candidate over another. It's about standing against ideas that suppress merit and limit conversation.
So basically going into the battleground of politics. Is there a part of you that regrets that?
Yes, I don't know if this is necessarily sort of one candidate or another candidate, but it's I'm generally against things that are anti-meritocratic or where there's an attempt to suppress discussion, where even discussing a topic is, not allowed.
He argues that preventing people from discussing certain topics is harmful and believes that the woke mind virus is a form of rebranded communism that needs to be challenged. Musk is committed to fighting against these ideas, seeing them as a significant threat to society and its values. Elon Musk has often been asked whether hate speech has increased on X, formerly Twitter, since he took over. In one discussion, he confronted someone who claimed that they had seen more hateful content on the platform.
What hate speech are you talking about? I mean, you use Twitter.
Right.
Do you see a rise in hate speech?
I mean,
But just a personal anecdote, like what do you? I don't.
Personally, for you, I would see I get more of that kind of content. Yeah, personally.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean to describe a hateful thing? Can you name one example?
Musk challenged them, asking for specific examples of what they found hateful. The person struggled to name even one instance, which Musk pointed out as a problem.
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
You
don't.
can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore because I just don't particularly like it.
But you
and
said
actually, a lot of people are quite similar. I only look at
hang on a second.
my
You said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen for you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying
then I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
Yes, because you can't give me a single example, not even one tweet, and yet you claimed that the hateful content was high. That's false.
No, what I claimed...
You just lied.
What? No.
He emphasized that if someone claims to see a lot of hate speech, they should be able to provide concrete examples. Since the person couldn't name a single tweet, Musk suggested their claims were not based on real evidence. He argued that many users feel similarly and that the perception of increased hate speech might reflect something other than the experience on the platform. Musk's point was the discussion about hate speech should be grounded in specific examples rather than vague claims, illustrating his belief that many criticisms of the platform might be exaggerated. In a recent fierce clash with Don Lemon, Elon Musk continues discussing racism and its historical context. He argued that while everyone comes from a history of struggle, the focus should not solely be on the past.
I think we want to look to the future rather than the past. Instead of engaging in constant rehashing of the past.
Musk pointed out that people often benefit from societal advantages based on their skin color, which can create a divide between different groups.
I think being aware of inequities in society is fine, of course. But trying to blame everything trying to make everything a race issue is, I think, divisive and corrosive to society.
He emphasized that continually discussing race and past injustices can hinder progress, suggesting that society should focus on opportunities and moving forward together instead of fixating on these issues.
Well, not everyone was a slave.
No, everyone was a slave.
Okay, but
we are all descended from slaves.
yeah, well,
All of us.
yeah.
It's just a question of when. Was it more recent or less recent? That's it.
Right.
But what future do we want? Is this something we want to make a part of our constant dialogue forever, or do we want to say, like, let's just move on and treat everyone, according to just who they are as an individual?
I agree with you with that. That's the ideal. But what the evidence shows is that that's not what's actually in practice. But that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean a lot to a whole lot of people who aren't able to take advantage of the opportunities that you were able to take advantage of, simply because the color of your skin.
What advantages does my color of my skin give me?
Well, there's an ease that you have in society that many people of color don't.
Well, if we keep talking about it nonstop, it will never go away.
Elon Musk has always been outspoken, and one of his boldest moments was when he stood against cancel culture and what he calls the woke mind virus.
So I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus after that. And we're making some progress.
He tackled everything from being labeled as conservative, despite his claims of being a moderate, to speaking out on controversial topics like free speech and gender issues.
Yeah, we obviously want secure borders. We want safe cities. Sensible spending, so that we don't have crazy inflation. We want freedom of speech. We want the Constitution to be upheld. And I'm being told at times that these are like right-wing values. I'm like, are you insane? This is literally the fundamental values that made America what it is today. Speech is meaningless unless you allow people you don't like to say things you don't like. Otherwise, it's irrelevant. And if at the point at which you lose free speech, it doesn't come back.
Musk never wanted to shy away, even indulges in the debate over misinformation, calling out platforms and the media, including the BBC. When a BBC journalist pressed him about freedom of speech versus misinformation, Musk fired back with a sharp question. Who's to say what's misinformation? Is it the BBC?
Who's to say that something is misinformation? Who's the arbiter of that? Is it the BBC? Who is to say that one person's misinformation is another person's information?
He highlighted how the media, including the BBC, hasn't always been accurate in its reporting, exposing the irony of their judgment on the issue.
Yeah, so the point I'm trying to make is that the BBC itself has, at times, published things that are false. Do you agree that has occurred? Does the BBC hold itself at all responsible for misinformation regarding masking and side effects of vaccinations, and not reporting on that at all? And what about the fact that the BBC was put under pressure by the British government to change its editorial policy? Are you aware of that?
Musk's stance on free speech remains firm, even when it risks his businesses, famously stating he doesn't care about losing advertisers who attempt to blackmail him with money.
I acquired X in order to preserve freedom of speech in America, the First Amendment, and I'm going to stick to that. And if that means making less money, so be it.
It's clear he's on a mission to protect what he believes is the right to speak freely, even if that means upsetting major corporations or the media itself.
If given a choice where an advertiser saying like you have to censor all this content on the platform, irrespective of where their advertising appears, then our answer will be like, look, you can choose where you want your advertising, what you want your advertising to appear next to, but you can't insist on censorship of the entire platform. And if you insist on censorship of the entire platform, even where your advertising doesn't appear, then obviously we will not want them as an advertiser.
Musk continues to stand by his principles, fighting against narratives he sees as damaging to society. The show didn't stop there. In one controversial video, Elon Musk shared his thoughts on people who prioritize appearances over genuine actions. He criticized those who focus on looking good while engaging in behavior he considers harmful or unethical. His blunt remarks reflect his frustration with what he sees as a lack of integrity in some people's actions.
And what I see all over the place is people who care about looking good while doing evil. Them.
Speaking of his perception on comedy, Elon Musk recently shared his thoughts on the impact of wokeness on society, especially regarding comedy. He argued that this mindset tries to make humor illegal, citing the backlash comedians like Dave Chappelle have faced.
Like, wokeness basically wants to make comedy illegal, which is not cool.
We've experienced a little bit of that.
I mean, Chappelle, like, what the
flower bed.
I mean, try to shut down Chappelle? Come on, man. That's crazy.
Musk believes that aiming for a humorous society filled with judgment and hate is not a good path.
You know, so do we want a humorless society that is simply rife with condemnation and hate, basically?
He sees wokeness as divisive and hateful, giving people a false sense of virtue while allowing them to act mean.
At its heart, wokeness is divisive, exclusionary, and hateful. It basically gives mean people a reason, it gives them a shield to be mean and cruel, armored in false virtue.
In a pointed exchange, he discussed his recent clashes with Senator Elizabeth Warren, who he accused of making unfair claims about him, like calling him a freeloader and a grifter. Musk highlighted that he pays significant taxes while the senator's salary comes from taxpayers.
She struck first, obviously.
Right. Yes, she did.
She called me a freeloader and a grifter who doesn't pay taxes, basically. And I'm literally paying the most tax that any individual in history has ever paid this year, ever. And she doesn't pay taxes, basically at all. And her salary is paid for by the taxpayer.
His remark underscores his belief that the wokeness mindset is one of the biggest threats to society, promoting a culture of condemnation rather than understanding. There's no chance that Elon Musk will stop talking about woke culture. In one interview, he raised concerns about the education system, particularly how it's changed. He believed today's students are receiving different educational experiences than previous generations. Musk pointed out that many parents are unaware of what their children are learning or not in school.
The experience that we had in high school and college is not the experience that kids today are having. Parents are just generally not aware of what their kids are being told or what they're not being told.
He shared a story about a family man whose daughters attending high school in the Bay Area struggled to name early U.S. presidents. While they could mention George Washington, all they knew about him was that he was a slave owner.
Let me give you an example that a friend of mine told me. His daughters go to high school in the Bay Area. He was asking them, who are the first few presidents of the United States? They could name Washington. So what do you know about him? Well, he was a slave owner. What else? Nothing.
Musk's comments highlight his worries that education may focus on certain narratives, potentially neglecting a well-rounded understanding of history. Finally, in a recent discussion, he addressed the pressure he faced from advertisers leaving his platform due to criticism. He clarified that he wouldn't back down from anyone trying to manipulate him with advertising or money. Musk's strong stance was that if anyone attempted to blackmail him through financial means, he would not tolerate it.
There was all of the criticism. There was advertisers leaving. We talked to Bob Iger today.
I hope they stop.
You hope?
Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
So if somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go f yourself. But go f yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is. Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience.
His remarks show his determination to maintain his principles regardless of outside pressures from sponsors or critics. Overall, Elon Musk's bold comments highlight a strong opposition to woke culture. He urges a return to open discussion on humor and believes society should focus on unity and progress rather than division and censorship. If you enjoyed this video, you'll want to make sure you catch our recent upload on Ricky Gervais and his craziest takedowns of woke culture.